Australian eTA for U.S. citizens. U.S. citizens visiting Australia must issue an electronic travel authorization called an Australia eTA. American passport holders do not need to travel to an Australian embassy or consulate. Still, they can receive the travel permit directly by email or WhatsApp with the help of eTA service. An electronic travel authorization is considered the safest and most convenient way for Americans to enter Australia. What does an Australian eTA allow for U.S. citizens? Australia eTA is an electronic travel authorization that allows American citizens and citizens of other eligible countries to enter the territory of Australia for various purposes. Issuing an Australia eTA is the most convenient way to fly to Australia from the United States. Americans can receive the confirmation directly to the email address or WhatsApp about Australia's online system. What does Australia's eTA mean? Australia eTA may be the boxes of the Electronic Travel Authority. In 1996, Australia first introduced this travel authorization to eligible countries. Over the years, the Australian Immigration Authority added additional countries to the eligibility of American citizens for the Australian eTA. Australia's electronic travel authorization allows Americans to travel to Australia visa-free with multiple entries. U.S. passport holders can stay in Australia with an eTA for up to 3 months with no limit on the number of entries into the country. Are U.S. passport holders eligible for an Australian eTA? Yes, American citizens can issue an online Australia eTA for a stay of up to 3 months per entry. The number of entries into the country for Americans is unlimited. U.S. citizens can obtain an Australia eTA for the following purposes: tourism, business purposes. Transit flight. Americans with dual citizenship, one in European countries, can apply for eVisitor. Both types of visas are identical in options for similar purposes. At the same time, eTA for Australia requires installing a suitable application on your mobile phone. Compared to eVisitor for Australia, which does submit an Australia eTA, there is no obligation to submit an Australia eTA for American citizens. U.S. passport holders can apply for a different visa. See the options above. If you need a visa for a different purpose or a stay of more than 3 months, Americans can apply for Visa 600. Visa 600 for Americans allows a stay of up to 1 year continuously in Australia. In addition, there are visas for particular purposes, such as family visa, entry by cruise to Australia, expert visa, official business travel, tourist and work visa, for a certain period. Do Americans need an Australian visa? U.S. passport holders must have a valid Australia eTA to visit Australia for up to 3 months. The Australian eTA for U.S. nationals is an online travel authorization that replaces the need for a visa. The eTA covers vacations, business trips, and transit through Australia. It is valid for a year and allows multiple visits of up to 3 months. However, if you want to stay in Australia for more than 3 months or work in Australia, in that case, they will be required to apply for an Australian visa for Americans. This must be obtained from the nearest Australian government diplomatic office in the United States by making an embassy appointment before the intended travel dates. An embassy visa for Australia for U.S. citizens may be issued for studying, working, or residency, among other options. The type of Australian visa issued depends on the needs of the individual American applicant. Is entry to Australia free for Americans? No. Entering Australia requires Americans to issue visas before flying to Australia. All Australian visas for U.S. passport holders are online and can be sent via email or WhatsApp. The easiest way to get permission to enter Australia for Americans is to issue an Australia eTA. The eTA is a substitute for visas for various purposes, allowing a stay of up to 3 months in Sydney, Melbourne, and other Australian cities. The eTA is suitable for vacation travel, informal business meeting, and even just transit in Australia. It is valid for 1 year, and you can enter or pass multiple times in the country. As mentioned, if you want to stay for more than 3 months or the purpose of the trip is for another purpose, you must adapt the visa to your purpose precisely. It is essential to know that Australia offers over 70 different types of visas that are intended for specific purposes. With eTA's service for issuing visas to Australia, we will first understand your purpose and occupation in Australia and then recommend the visa that best suits your purpose and stay. Even if it is for special visas such as studies or immigration, eTA can help prepare the documents for the application and check their correctness. Special visas for Americans will require a visit to your U.S. passport holders to get an Australia eTA. U.S. citizens must submit an appropriate application. For the application, you need your passport and your basic personal information. With eTA, American citizens do not need to fill out documents or applications for an eTA to Australia. eTA's unique service only needs a photocopy of your passport and primary data such as your residential address. The entire process of sending the passport photo to eTA takes a few minutes. The advantage of eTA's service of obtaining an eTA for Australia is that you do not have to verify or worry that you have made a mistake in the details or there is an error in the data that could lead to the rejection of your application. A separate passport should be sent for each passenger with an American passport. Each immigrant needs an eTA to Australia separately, even if they are children flying with their parents or children listed in their parents' passports. The application for eTA Australia must be submitted when you are outside of Australia. You can be in any third country, you don't have to be in the U.S. to submit the application. The ideal time to submit an eTA in Australia is about 7 days before flying to Australia. At the same time, eTA recommends an earlier submission in case the application is rejected, and this is to have enough time to apply for a different type of visa for you. What documents do Americans need for Australia eTA? American citizens must meet primary conditions before applying for an Australia eTA online. You must check that you, holder of a valid U.S. passport, correct email on access. In addition, there are also security and medical requirements for American citizens. A clean criminal record or a criminal record with a sentence of less than a year, whether a prison sentence or a suspended sentence. You are not sick or infected with tuberculosis. How do you get an eTA to Australia after approval? Or the immigration authority, after checking your documents and passed, has approved the request, you receive the Australia eTA online to your email address and WhatsApp or any other platform. Australia eTA is valid from the day it is approved. If the travel authorization was received on January 1, 2023, it is valid until January 1, 2024. In addition, the eTA for Australia is linked to your passport number. Therefore, if your passport is lost or expires before the travel authorization expires, the visa is invalid, and you need to issue a new visa. In other words, you must fly with the passport you submitted the application and presented it to the immigration authority upon entering the country. eTA recommends printing your travel confirmation to Australia if your approval for an Australian eTA. As mentioned, after the application is submitted and the immigration authority approves the application, your passport number is automatically linked to the eTA travel authorization to Australia. eTA will also send you a copy of the confirmation to your email address and WhatsApp. The validity of the approval starts from the day it is approved and is valid until 1 year or the expiration of your passport, whichever comes first. American passport holders must present the Australia eTA when boarding a flight to Australia and when entering the immigration officers upon landing. Australian eTA for U.S. citizens. U.S. citizens visiting Australia must issue an